Yeah.
All right, hello, everybody. I'm calling this meeting to order. Welcome to the workshop of August 8th, 2023. We're here to discuss Sunrise Park and the restrooms update. So I would, at this time, ask you all to please silence any electronic devices that you may have that may make noise. And I will ask Ms. Manning to please call the roll.
Commissioner Penny?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Danio?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson? Mayor Villa?
Here. I don't think we need to excuse Mr. Johnson from the workshop. There's no, but we can at the city commission meeting. So we're here to meet about the Sunrise Park and restrooms. So we're going to get an update from staff on that. And then later tonight at 6 o'clock will be our regularly scheduled city commission meeting. So with that, I'll toss it over to our city manager, Mr. Forte. Welcome up here, Steve. You don't look like Roy.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so Antoine and Steve are up here because they have more of the details with what's happening as far as the timing of the project. So we've got the money that's been budgeted now, is budgeted last year, and I'm sure you're wondering what's taking so long to get certain things done, but there's a succession of when these items have to be done. So right now, we're still waiting on the seawall to be repaired, and we don't want to do any work inside the park until the seawall is repaired because it's going to damage the grass. We don't want to start the irrigation or any of the sod replacement because we can't do that until we know where the playground is going to be, and that's one subject that we want to talk about tonight is what we want to do with the playground. Do we want to replace it or expand it? But I'm going to let Steve kind of give you, give you a quick rundown of the timing of what we anticipate some things are going to get done. We did just do a work order for having all of the pavilions and the bench and the picnic tables pressure washed and painted and get those brought up to speed. So Steve, go ahead and fill them in on where you're at.
Steve, before you start, do you happen to know how long that's going to take before it's finished?
You know, unfortunately, we're strapped to other contractors' timeframes.
I didn't know if we had an idea.
Yeah, so on that
What?
seawall,
The seawall.
yeah.
The seawall itself is it's a pretty small section we're talking about. It's 30 or 35
So
feet.
it's not like they'll be into next year?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
That-
not
I
as
just
big
wanted
as
an
when we did on the north side. The north side was pretty extensive. The south side is not so much.
Okay.
But again, they're going to be bringing in a lot of equipment, and we don't want to put irrigation lines and sod down if they're going to be tearing that all
Right.
up.
Right, yeah, this isn't a seawall replacement. It's a repair of around 30 feet. So they're going to be doing grouting and concrete work and that sort of thing. It's going to be a much shorter process.
Okay.
But yeah, as an overview, some of the things that we spoke about that we wanted to get done at the park, rust removal is, we're going through our second sweep at the fitness court. So we're making some progress there. We got our PO issued for the design for our landscaping, irrigation, and the mulch beds. And that's with Parker Minchenberg. As the city manager had mentioned, painting, standing of pavilions, and the painting of the restroom complex, and the pressure washing of the pads. Now, we have a PO that's issued for that. Once that work is done, we have the picnic tables in place. I don't want to have them put out there until we get all the work done at the pavilions. I don't want to have any dripping on it, and I want to have, So we'll do that right after the painting is completed. We are working on the water line installation, because again, anything that's going to be potentially damaging sidewalks or any grass, I want to get all of that stuff done first, and that includes the southeast seawall repair. I did get a quote on that, and I'm looking at piggybackable contracts, and if things look correct, that'll probably be with you in a few weeks. Following the seawall repair, we're going to have to wait until after the Arts Festival, but we have the replacement benches. I'll put them out right after the Arts Festival because they're using those plots.
They're using the what?
The
pavilions?
pads, they're using every little bit of the park. So that's the very beginning of December. So once they're done with that, then we'll put the benches in place.
So those benches will be out? Are you going to pull them out, the old benches, pull them out before the festival, or are they
No, sir.
staying?
These are the, there's,
Where the workout stations used to be.
yeah, where the
Oh.
lift stations used to be,
Oh,
there's-
okay.
there's, empty concrete pads. We're going to put benches there.
Okay,
Most of them facing the river. When we get towards the playground, we'll have one or two facing in, so parents can watch their kids. But we'll replace those. We have the replacements already. We'll put those in probably December, early January. The playground purchase, and I know we're going to discuss this a little bit more about options, but I did, the city applied for a CDBG grant right around $100,000. Typically, they give an authorization to proceed around January, so that's our timeline. And as Mr. Forte also mentioned, we kind of want to avoid doing the irrigation work until we have the seawall and the playground done. We don't know the footprint yet, so we don't want to put anything underground.
So what was the cost, the estimated cost on the playground that we priced out?
We had budgeted $250,000. That's what's being recommended into next year's budget. And the CDBG grant's $100,000. It's a cost reimbursable grant, so we have to have the 250 in, we get reimbursed 100 out of it.
And is that, that's about what the cost of the playground is that we estimated, that you estimated?
Yeah, what's more expensive there would be the shade structures. That would be the most expensive piece of that. I mean, the playground itself might run 130, but the shade structures could run 100.
So really, the question I think we have for you tonight is whether or not we, is it your direction for us to remove completely the existing playground equipment? Or do we want to add to the footprint of that and keep what's there?
so did you already price out what size playground would replace that? Would it be the same size?
It's not going to have the same exact footprint.
Yeah, yeah.
Roughly the same size. Again, that one cost around $100,000 back in 2012.
2012?
Right, so it's probably going to be right around the same size. With the shade structure, some of the things that we want to consider are, do you want swings there? Because you wouldn't want to put a shade structure directly over there because, people could loop over it. And if we don't put shades over the swings, then we might save a couple bucks just by not having such a large shade structure.
And we have a shade structure now, but
There are small shade
Small.
structures
Small,
over there.
above, yeah,
Yeah, they're small.
not over the
Why are
swing
we-
set.
considering shade structure just because,
You need it.
It was brought
You
up.
need it. If you visit most playgrounds now, you have it. It's,
So this would be almost similar to the large pavilions they have over at Pictona, only these would be bigger than that. But the same general idea. We would have to have a little upgrade to make sure that we could take those down in-house in the event of a storm. So we'd have to have turnbuckles on. Brazilian peppers, per our meeting with Fish and Wildlife, likely March or April was their timeline. And then following that work, well, really, at any time, then we'd be looking at the sod and the landscaping in those two mulch beds. Okay?
So it's progressing forward, but because we have to wait for certain things to be completed, we're not initiating some of the items as soon as we
Well, that
would like.
makes sense.
Vice Mayor?
This is not on the list, but it's something I've noticed recently as I frequent the park. I know the main pier is all brand new, but when you walk in the small pier to the right with the pavilion, those boards look like they need a little love. I don't know if you've walked out there, but some of them look like if it was at my house, I'd replace them.
It's my recommendation, when we get to replacing the remainder of the southern seawall, and that would be, a 400-foot section, so it could be 7 years out or something, that we consider taking that down, because it's not just the decking. We're missing cross bracing, that sort of thing. The structure's,
It looks like it got whacked in the last hurricane pretty bad.
we can fix it
Yeah.
up, or we can abandon it.
are you talking about the,
On the south side,
On the south side, when you walk out, there's a pavilion there.
right, halfway out?
Yeah, but when you walk out there,
Right.
look at the
Should it
bottom.
be blocked off? Is it that bad?
It's not that bad, but if a 350-pound guy started jumping on it, they might fall through it. It-
And that needs to be
Well,
fixed, yeah.
If it's that bad, I mean, maybe
yeah.
we.
I don't know, I'm no safety expert, but I know when I walk out there, I walk gingerly.
Boards are very old, they're nailed down.
They're almost like dry rotted.
Is it,
They're old, yeah.
is it something where we should consider shutting that down for the time being? I think we had to do that with another, small
Yeah.
walkover.
The other side.
I don't think that we need to at this time, but I will go back out there and double check.
Okay.
Just looks like there's
I'm a pretty-
there's old electrical lines that look like they got destroyed.
No,
that
don't
are just
jump. We don't
like-
want you falling.
Bring
They're
somebody
hanging.
with you and jump at the same time and then see how.
Good point, Vice Mayor, and yeah, I'll need to go and put eyes
Walk
on it
around and check it out.
myself.
You'll see what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
But look, I think to your point is that, as we all know, the citizens have called for upgrades in our parks, and this is the jewel, I think, of at least eastern Volusia County and has that potential. So as we are investing now, we should take a look at everything. So we could have all of these beautiful amenities and beautiful land and all of that, and then in a year or two, if it continues to go downhill, as the Vice Mayor was saying, and I'm talking specifically about the South Pier, we should look to, if we can rehab that. I don't think any of us are calling for a new pier there,
No.
but certainly maybe change out the decking.
And we can,
Decking is easy. The one concern, again, when I mentioned the seawall, my concern there is depending on how much work you want to do, when we get to replace the seawall. Right now, the new seawall comes right to that pavilion bridge. So when we extend it, it's going to be going right through where the bridge is. So I wouldn't want to put too much into it only to take it apart. Granted, we might be able to get away with just, taking out some decking, maybe a piling or two.
But-
But that's just something to consider.
But if the seawall is going to be finished by, did you say January?
We're doing a repair. If we were to go down again 5, 7 years and look at replacing it like we did on the other portions, with that, so we have a similar structure and a very strong seawall, we would have to
Is that
take
rain?
out-
Yeah, I guess.
We would have to take out a portion of that bridge in order to get to the seawall.
See it.
Decking is easy. So we can replace the decking. Cross bracing, then you'd be running into a contractor because that's in.
Yeah, I just don't want to put decking on top of a rotten structure, infrastructure.
Yeah,
But
somebody
it's just, it's a shame if we do the whole park and it looks pristine and then we have this black sheep hanging out over here.
Right, and we have the new pier, the longer one. So, yeah, I'd actually, thank you for bringing that up, Vice Mayor. I'd like to look into that as well, so.
well, I don't want to wait 5 to 7 years to do something about that.
Right.
We can either look to see where we are with these costs and how they come in, that landscaping and the irrigation and the sod is going to be very expensive. But at the end of the project, if there's money left over, we could look to see what it would cost to repair that. Repairing it would be more favorable than to have to rip it out and replace it completely, as long as those pilings are good.
Right.
And we get the cross members in pretty good shape. We can have staff go out and replace some boards, providing that, you said, the understructure is in good shape. But if it needs more than that, then, you're looking at probably another $100,000, depending upon how far out that goes, and especially if we're going to keep, there's a roof
There's a
on
roof
that.
structure out there, yeah. It's a pretty big pavilion.
Yeah, so it's going to probably be close to 6 figures to replace that.
But what's our total budget for this project, Joe?
650? Yeah.
And we got 833 on this list right here?
Well, we have 650, however, there's other things that are included here that weren't part of the project per se. For instance, the playground, when we had our meeting last, we took it out of the proper project and decided to move it into the budget for next year instead.
So we're in your proposed budget this year is money to replace the playground.
Yep.
Not part of this, what we were calling this to be the legacy project.
Plus, we were counting on the grant for next year.
That's 100,000.
Yeah, the 100,000 CDBG grant as well. Okay, so I'm reading through here, and I know, Vice Mayor, you've brought up several times about the condition of the bathrooms. Joe, I know you and I have spoke about some options that should be included here. I don't know if you found more out about the locks.
Well, Steve and I went up and met with Bill Partington Sr. to the Fleming Central Park up in Ormond Beach. And instead of, like, we have these battery-operated control devices on our bathroom locks, and they get damaged, people break them, they steal the $1.25 worth of batteries, and they break a $600 piece of equipment to do it. They're really not made for that environment. So up in Ormond Beach, what they have is a electromagnetic plate that, you got a plate that sits on the door and this electromagnetic device that sits at the top of the door jamb. And it's on a timer, it's hardwired, and it's on a timer. And the one they had up there was 600 pounds of pressure. You can go up to 1,200 pounds of pressure. And it automatically locks. If somebody happens to be in there when it locks, there is a button that they could push that will release it to allow them to get out. So that's an option, and that runs roughly $1,000 for the equipment, plus whatever it's going to cost to install them. My concern with that, if I have a picture of it, is, I mean, it looks like a little bit of a narrow, long brick that sits up in that
I've seen it.
area. You know, I don't want somebody whacking it down with a bat, you know, so we can try it on a couple of restrooms to see if it works, to keep people out of there after hours, which is what our biggest challenge, well, we got challenges of people going in there when it's open and doing damage.
That's what I was going to ask. That's not going to keep people from damaging it.
No, and the problem with these park bathrooms, all of these park bathrooms, is they're not being used by your typical family coming to visit the park. They're being used by homeless people that are going in there, taking baths in the sink, doing ungodly things in there, using drugs, and it's hard to
When
keep
I
them.
went up north in a little town, Winchester, it's about an hour outside of DC, it's Winchester, Virginia, went down their outside mall, their public restrooms, because they did have a lot of homeless on their outside mall, their public restrooms, you have to, I don't know, it was a dime or a quarter or whatever, you got to put money in to be able to go in, which kind of for them, after speaking to a couple people there, cut down on some of those issues.
I don't know if that's going to cut down on the damage.
Well, if they can't just willy-nilly get in,
Well, you know, there's a way around everything, and if somebody pays their quarter or whatever it is to get in, and then they prop the door open,
well, okay,
you know,
true.
we could never,
Can he be breaking in to get the change?
and that's the other thing, is they'll be breaking the machine to take the coins out. So
That is true.
it's the clientele that's coming into these parks that's damaging the restrooms, and it happens almost immediately. Eddie or one of the custodians will be down there cleaning the restrooms, and there'll be somebody waiting outside to go in there and use it, and they take no care whatsoever once they're in there. I think it was the dog park had recently had the sinks or the hand dryers were smashed and damaged. Right now, Centennial Park, I have a $6,000 invoice to replace the two doors at Centennial Park. One was due to damage, one was just due to wear and tear. But it's getting expensive. It's very expensive, and like I said, these parks are not being used by the clientele that we thought they'd be used for.
So, to me, the problem when we started speaking about the bathrooms were that mostly homeless people were going in, breaking these very expensive locks, taking the batteries. Now it's open for a day or however long until staff gets there to see this. Then we have to replace it. It was becoming an expense. And so to me, it sounds like that is a solution that you found with the magnet doors because it is hardwired in. Now, you know, it's just like with anything. We can put the park equipment up and someone could come up there and break all the bars out. Anything that we're going to do, someone could come along and break it. This to me sounds more hardy. And so in addition to that, and I see here on our chart here at the bottom, it says park security. As I sit right now, I'm not wanting to go down that route to have someone I'm thinking that's saying security is someone sitting there.
Well, that is one of the things that came up, you're right, was to hire somebody. And
Right.
so it's on the list, but it's not a.
And I'm not for that, especially when we have a possible solution now of, we will get away from them breaking the $600 locks, I believe. It's $1,000 to install. If we would have installed these years ago,
It's $1,000 for the equipment plus the installation.
how much is it?
I don't know yet.
It can't be
you didn't tell me that
much
was-
more.
You told me $1,000, it sounded like it was installation as well.
No, $1,000 for the equipment. Now, we've got to run wire to it and get it installed, and, I don't have an internal, that can't be done with staff. We got to hire that out to an electrician. But what I would recommend is that we try to do it, we'll do it on 2 or 4 bathrooms and
Right.
see how maybe do it over at Centennial Park to begin with, maybe do it down at Second Street Park.
Or why not start with Sunrise while we're doing
I got to
this?
put 6 in, I got to put 8 of them in there. So that's why I figured,
Has Orman had problems with those being broken? Did you ask that?
He alluded to, not those being broken, but he alluded to the homeless problem being from Ormond Beach to New Smyrna Beach. So he just in his,
Do they have damage like we have? Do they have that problem?
I don't know.
There was some marks on the bathroom doors, like people were trying to get in, but that's the only thing I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, inside,
No, I mean on a daily basis, like we have an issue.
I would have to ask them if they're having that kind of problem. I don't know.
Because if they're still having that problem, then
He didn't
me,
make it
those
seem
locks-
like he was out there replacing those magnetic door closers. He didn't give me that impression.
not
Mayor.
just with those locks, I'm talking about the damage inside the
I
restroom.
would have to find that out from
Okay.
Ormond Beach. I don't know.
Vice Mayor?
But I believe the magnetic lock is a good solution to stop the damage during the middle of the night. But my concern is they're blown up 15 minutes after Eddie cleans them at 8:15. People are in there bathing and, like you said, doing God knows what at 10 o'clock in the morning. And how do we keep homeless people out from doing that? And the answer is, I don't think there is an answer to do that. I don't think there's a way to stop it. You can stop the damage on the $600 locks, and you can stop people from sleeping in the middle of the night, but you're certainly not going to be able to stop them from destroying it when they're open for the general public.
I hear
That's
you.
my concern.
I hear you on that, John. Chief, can you come to the microphone for a second?
Mayor.
And that's why I was
Go ahead.
curious.
While he comes up. you can talk.
Yeah, I was just Joe and I were talking earlier, prior to the business years ago, we had a
Join us up here.
presentation by some guy with the record company.
That's all right. No, sit up here.
He said,
Oh, sorry.
you're never gonna stop them. You're just trying to slow them down as much as you can. And that's, I'm afraid that's what we're in.
Unless you close them.
Or close them, yeah.
So the reason, Chief, the reason I brought you up is the Vice Mayor's concerns are very valid and seem to be backed up with facts. My question that I kind of brought up very quickly in another meeting was having security placed back out there. I know the original security devices were destroyed. They were broken into the storage facility there. So let's say that we installed them again and staff went down and the bathroom was completely destroyed or they broke something in there. Could your police officers look at that footage? A lot of times a lot of these transient people, put out a bolo for them and then hold them accountable for that. Is that sufficient enough?
So it's a kind of an open-ended question because I know a little bit about, actually I know a lot about surveillance and as far as camera systems. Unless you're going to spend about $10,000 to $15,000 on a camera system, it's not going to be anything that will be able to use a comparison to ID somebody.
And we can't use it inside the bathroom either.
No.
No, this is
I
outside.
just mean outside.
And we did have a camera in Sunrise Park, not facing necessarily at the bathrooms. I think it was facing toward the,
It was on the exercise equipment.
Yeah, it was on that sports equipment,
but they broke into the closet and stole all the equipment.
right?
And-
Well, not only if you have a security or camera set up outside,
It's
you're
not
not going to be
monitored.
able to prove that that individual actually did the damage.
Correct.
And it's not monitored. It would be a recording,
Right.
so there's not somebody there.
That's why I say you're not going to be able to
So if 10 people use the bathroom since we last checked, then
Yeah.
all 10
One of
could be
you did it.
suspects, but you couldn't
Yeah.
prove it.
One of you went in there and wrecked it, but
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the other option that we talked about was closing the bathrooms and then potentially putting in porta-johns, portalets there on a temporary basis to see how that would respond. So you want to set that aside and just go ahead and spend some money, put some of the magnetic closers on there?
So at least speaking for myself, I'm against that. I want to keep the bathrooms open at all costs. I shouldn't say at all cost. What I mean is, we should do everything, I think, first to try to continue to keep them open. I think it is an amenity for many families that go there. I visit it often and have used those restrooms as well, but that's where I stand on it. Commission's open.
if we do just a couple restrooms as a trial run, I don't have a problem with that. But I don't want to outfit, 4, 6, 8, whatever. I'd rather stick to a couple restrooms to try it on because I still believe the damage is going to happen. But the only way to tell
try it.
is if you try a couple locks. And I don't want to close the restrooms, but I'm going down the path of if this doesn't work, there's really nothing else except for maybe portalets. We can't keep causing the expense to the city, and then eventually the taxpayers are going to see that hurt. So, yeah, I don't mind doing a trial with a couple of those locks.
Yes, sir.
I'm okay with a couple bathrooms as a, pilot program, whatever, but I got a feeling the only way we're gonna recondition some of those people of unsavory type is if we temporarily close the bathrooms, put the portalets, and try to establish some new habits. I don't think people use the bathrooms that take their family there for anything more than taking little Johnny or Susan into the bathroom because they gotta go pee-pee, and it's like, it might not be, we've had them at our events, and you're not gonna find people sleeping in them, and as much as I don't wanna shut the bathrooms, I don't think we're ever gonna get past that problem unless we change up a little bit. It doesn't have to be permanent, it could be 3 months, just enough to maybe get people to get out of Dodge, sorta.
Vice Mayor, would you like to open?
Well, I tend to agree with Commissioner Danio. We've all used a portalet, and the only reason you're going to use a portalet is because you have to use a portalet.
Right.
You're not going to go in there, you're not going to sleep, you're not going to steal the batteries out of the magnetic lock, you're not going to take a shower in there, you're going to do your business and get out, and hopefully you can hold your breath long enough to do that. I mean, it's not a pleasant thing, but it's there in case little Johnny has to go to the bathroom. But I will then agree with Commissioner Curry and our mayor that I don't want to give up on the bathrooms. I'd rather use a public restroom, but there's 8 bathrooms there. I think you should close 6 of them, try a men's and a women's, put the electric lock on it, see how it works. That cuts down on the janitorial services.
I could go with that.
Give them a 6-month trial period, see what happens. If it doesn't get any better, we shut them down and put up 2 portalets. That would be, I don't want to give up on it, but I think we're looking through rose-colored glasses, and I agree with Commissioner Danio. I think we're all going to be disappointed in humanity when they blow up the 2 bathrooms with the electric locks. But I'm willing to give it 6 months to try it.
I could go with that plan, Mayor.
And all very valid thoughts, and obviously I'm more than willing to go along with that trial. So, Mr. Forte, that's what we will ask you to do is
So we'll go ahead and, just in Sunrise Park, we'll close 6 of the restrooms, keep 1 male, keep 1 female open, and then the other parks will just continue doing what we're doing at this point.
were you in favor of doing more of them?
I don't think we should, it's going to be $500 to install those things. It's going to be
Yeah, at
$1,500
least.
a door.
Right.
It's worth spending $3,000 on 2 doors. It's only a 6-month delay. If it works, let's outfit the whole city with them.
My
If it,
concern with doing Sunrise Park is, ideally, these are on some type of a remote. So for that park, I would want 1 remote device in there that would then run to all the doors, all 8 doors. So to just do 2, I'm hoping that they could at least pre-wire to set that
To
device
jump it if you had to.
wherever to get there, as opposed to if I did it in Centennial Park, there's just 2 doors, 1 device, and it's done.
But I can't remember the last time we had all 8 bathrooms ever open.
No, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about how is the electrician going to wire it in anticipation of potentially wiring the other 6.
I would like to bring something up, just to make sure, kind of what I'm seeing down there. At Sunrise Park, if we were to lock 6 bathrooms, keep 2 open, one of the problems that we're going to run into is that the homeless population is not only by night, that they're by day, and especially now that it's 100 degrees, you're going to have people that are going to go into the bathrooms, and they're going to be there for hours. If we have 2 bathrooms open, that means nobody else except for them are going to be in it.
Well, why don't we get into the 90s and make them unisex bathrooms? They're one-stall bathrooms.
We could do that, but again, my concern is that if we only have a couple open, that'll be for the homeless, and then the people that want to use it aren't going to have other restrooms to use.
Are they currently doing that now?
Yes,
They're just going in and hanging out all day?
yes.
Oh, man.
That's my concern. They're blowing them up all day long. That's why I think, I can go either way on this thing. I could say shut them down and put portalets out tomorrow.
Chief, is that loitering? No? They're allowed to go in there for 6 hours because it's public?
Yeah, it's a public building.
Wow.
That was my next question. What about the other parks, chief? I mean, we're tackling Sunrise, but I mean, is it
Centennial
something
Park,
else?
the dog park, Second Street Park, they are all in the same.
Riverside Park, when it's open, it's horrible.
Just my thoughts, but if we were going to do an experiment, I wouldn't recommend Sunrise just because it's so busy, and I can foresee that happening. If we use another park that isn't so busy, we're not expecting a ton of families, that might be a better experiment. But I would want to keep Sunrise, I want to have something open for the people that are there, because it's a pretty busy park.
I mean, the other 3 options to me would be Riverside, Centennial, or the dog park.
Steve, what are you saying, the other,
Right, but
try and what I suggested, or what?
Centennial?
It works there.
If you wanted to try the new electromagnetic.
Oh, electromagnetics.
I'll try it in a different restroom first, just because if they work, then we can put them in Sunrise, everybody's happy. But what I don't want to have is, just my thinking, is if you only have 2 restrooms available at Sunrise and they're being used by homeless, and it's a busy park, then nobody can use any.
Right, but whether we have an electronic magnet on or not, the homeless people, what I hear you saying, the homeless people are gonna camp out there anyways.
They are, but we have 8 bathrooms there now. So they're not going to be in all 8.
Yeah, they
But,
No, but that's
but
how
if
they
we
get
close
torn
them
up
and we
as
have
well.
if we close them and have 2 portalets, they're not gonna hang on the portalet. Then the bathrooms are open for all of our citizens all the time. I think the problem is that the bathrooms are open during the day for homeless people to sleep in them. And that's the problem. So we're kicking it down the can.
And they know that we can't remove.
Being Pollyanna, thinking, oh, if we build it, they will come, and nice people will only use it, and they'll put paper down before they go potty, and they'll clean up if they make a mess. No, they're gonna blow it up. That's the problem. We're catering to the lowest common denominator, and I don't know. I'm more than likely to agree with Commissioner Danio and just shut them down.
If we shut them down and we put up a couple portalets in Sunrise to try to retrain the behavior, or let individuals know that they're not open for that anymore and maybe they'll move on. And I don't know what the end date would be
I don't know
to
what the
that.
answer is.
So, Mr. Forte, have you talked to other city managers specifically about this? I know you have a manager's call. Can you reach out and see if this problem is happening in every city, most cities, some cities, and then how they've dealt with it? And I'm glad we're having this discussion. We've only had this in small bites, and I want to research more of maybe what we can do and cannot do. Just off the top of my head, I mean, look, what if there was a system out there that after someone's in there for 30 minutes, bright lights start strobing?
It shakes the whole.
You know, some places will
siren
do
goes
that,
off.
put strobes outside, so that way they don't have people sleeping
You know, the
outside.
park that I equate it to the closest is the one by Jackie Robinson Stadium where the sailing center, or the rowing center is.
Yeah,
I know the city of Daytona Beach had a tremendous homeless problem down there. They flushed them out somehow, but there are public restrooms there, and I don't know if those bathrooms are open. That,
When we do all these things here at City Hall, don't we just have 4 or 5 portalets on the side?
yeah, like
Usually.
two. The problem is they're
Yeah.
only there for like 3 days and they don't get stinky. If they're out there for 3 months, I know they change them out, but they get a
It
little
would be
right.
changed either weekly or monthly or whatever the demand is.
Well, and I'm not ready to commit to that yet of shutting down the bathrooms. If it ever comes to that in the future, whether I'm sitting up here or not, then we have to look at what is that building for? So if you're going to just tear down the building and that's where porta potties are going to go or whatnot. But I'm not ready to have that discussion yet. I'd like you to reach out to the other managers in your next manager call and see if there is a problem, see if there's other solutions. I do like the magnet and that it's hardwired. They're not going to, I don't see them breaking it. I know I can't think in that criminal mindset, but I understand why they're breaking the battery ones. They're getting batteries.
Well, it's
and-
not just the batteries, it's to get nightly access. It's shelter.
Yeah.
Right.
So the batteries are a minor reward to the damage, but they're
Sometimes
breaking
it's for
spend
shits
the
and
night.
giggles.
But that magnet's gonna save us the destruction. We're spending $1,000 a month replacing locks at least.
Right.
That's a baby step.
Yes,
But
that's
it's not,
one
it's not
part.
solving the whole problem.
It's not a
But
solution.
Let's start taking let's eat this elephant
Yeah.
one bite at a time.
Right.
So the chief
And
said, the chief said Centennial Park is probably the worst. And being that we're in the process of having to replace the doors over there anyway, we might as well use that as the test case and.
There's only 2 doors there, right?
Yeah. Well, the door, but like I said,
dog
we're
park.
in the process of replacing 2 doors at Centennial.
oh, that's true. So it can go right there.
Why don't we just swap it out for
Let's
that?
do that now. If the commission agrees, let's start there. And then, because, look, Sunrise Park, this is all coming in the future months. So we're going to be
Right.
able to see how this works over there first, see if we can apply it here with these improvements.
You're 6, 8 months down the road before you get this stuff done anyways.
Right. So is there any objection to that? Yes, ma'am?
No objection to that. But I would like information that you've already requested, plus if in the meantime, there continues to be criminal mischief in our bathrooms, if somehow, Mr. Forte, you can email all of us so that we can take this up sooner rather than later.
I'll give you an update at each meeting to see if there's been damage in the previous.
Yeah,
meeting.
because if there's continued damage, I think we need to
Go talk to Eddie.
really
It's a.
Eddie has it all on his phone.
consider.
It's a daily basis for the most part.
I mean, they're stealing toilet paper and jamming it into the fan.
Yeah.
So it doesn't squeak at night so they can sleep there.
I just,
Oh, it's terrible.
I don't think these magnetic locks are gonna do a thing for any of that. It will keep them from breaking the mechanism, but
And
you're,
it'll keep them out at night, but
It'll
it's
keep them
not
out at
gonna
night.
stop them.
you're still gonna have all that damage.
Possibly.
All right, well, let's
So-
take this first baby step. I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah, that's fine.
Uh,
But I'd like
We
to stay
all want-
updated
We all
on,
want the same thing in the end. We want to try to keep them open.
Absolutely.
And let's do everything we can to do that. So let's start there. Unless there's anything further on that, want to move forward. Okay, at this time, I know there's members of the public, I do want to offer them the ability to speak in this work session. Hold on one second.
Can we talk about the playground a little bit?
You want to talk about that first before we open? Yeah, we could
I
talk
just-
about that. Go ahead. So we'll do.
I know we
comment in a
talked
minute.
about, are we gonna fix it up, blow it up, replace it? I think we should really sit down and have staff analyze. I know there's some things that probably are beyond their lifetime expected there, but there might be some poles, there might be a swing, there might be a slide that, oh, well, it's just got a couple rusty bolts and we could fix that. So I don't wanna just throw that whole playground away. If we can add to it, I think that would be perfect. But I don't want to add to something that only has 24 months left to live. You know, I don't want to kill the whole patient, but, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to just say, let's get rid of it, and because we could save money if we're just going to expand it rather than replacing it. Because
Yes.
if we replace it, it's either going to be the same size or smaller, because it sounds $250,000.
Well, we met with Joe Paul
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago, who was an employee of Daytona Beach Parks and Rec Department. He started his own business. He's the guy that, if the schools or major complexes that have large playgrounds have a warranty and there's damage, they call the company to get warranty work done. They call him to go out and do the repairs. That's the local guy. And he's kind of branching off doing his own thing. So we met with him, that maybe we would engage him to go by and inspect all of our playgrounds maybe twice a year. I think it's a good idea. We can check for any problems that they have, reduce the liability. We can have him go out and take a look at this and give his professional opinion on the status of that one. The meeting that I had with him, he said he thinks that one is in pretty good shape. The one over at Centennial Park, he thinks needs to go. We've already talked about that. I've talked to the staff about removing that one already, as well as the one on Grove Street. The one in Sunrise, he said, being that we took that one piece out of it, he says there's still life there. I'll have to ask him, how long does he think it's going to be? If it's going to be, like you say, a year or two, if we're going to put the money in, let's replace it now. If it's going to be, 6 to 8 years, maybe we'll leave it.
Yep.
Right, and what I would like to do, if it's gonna be 6 to 8 years, that's me hoping, we need to do like we do with our fleet maintenance.
Yes.
We need to talk about 6 to 8, we gotta start putting 75,000 a year in the budget.
And the fire truck.
Because when it gets there, it's gonna come, and what we do is we put Band-Aids on things until they explode, and then the water main blows up, and it costs us 10 times it would to have replaced it 5 years ago.
Yep.
That's, if we're gonna do this park, we need to maintain the park and
Yep.
keep it
Agreed.
going.
You took the words out of my mouth. That was what I was going to say. My only fear, and I agree with you, if we could save money and we can do it for half the cost and have an even better playground, I'm all for that. I know my kids play on that often. I take them to it. It is starting to show signs of age. It is, and I've been right there on it. There has been a broken piece to it that took a long time to actually get completely taken care of. So I do want to see improvement there, but I don't want to just Band-Aid it. So if we're going to spend $100,000 adding on to it, and then in 4 years, it's the rest of it's not going to be good.
I think we're all on the same page.
We are, and to start a plan to take a look, just like we did with the fire truck. Every year we budgeted, just like we do with the roads, just like everything that staff is coming to us, we're having these plans, because too much falls behind. We could fix it, it's shiny and new for a little while, and then it goes downhill. So I agree with you.
Say one more thing, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
We talked about shade structures. My concern is that they're sales. Right now, we have a bunch of small ones. And I think I heard someone say that it was going to be replaced by a large one that staff would have to take down in high winds. I think we'd be much better served from a risk management perspective to have 4 or 5 small shades that overlap than one big shade. And you can go ask Jeremy Craig at the Copper Bottom about that, because the one they just put up blows away every time the wind is over 25 miles an hour.
The challenge with that, Commissioner, is how they're set in the ground. Typically, these things are set in rather large poles.
Right.
So if you put in one large one, you might have 3 poles because it's a triangle-shaped shade. If you're putting in multiple ones, the cost is not in the shade, the cost is in those poles.
And I get that, I'm just worried about what happened at Pictona when we had the hurricane and we didn't have the staff, because we're cleaning storm drains and we're putting up hurricane shutters, and one gets blown away. And then we now just lost a $50,000 sunshade to a hurricane that was supposed to be removable, but it's not as easy as it sounds.
That's right on the river, man. It's
Windy, it's windy all the time.
yep.
So that's my concern, is let's look at options for that rather than one big one.
That's a fair point. If Steve, you talk with the manufacturers, right? Could you find out, the loads and if they're engineered to that point? And then I don't know how long it would take a staff member to go out and take it down, but
Don't they make them perfect?
It would take several, because, the problem is if it's 10-mile-an-hour wind and this thing is 200 square feet, have you ever seen a sail luff on a sailboat? It'll kill you. When Jeremy's blew away, the turnbuckles were flying around, smashing into the building and smashing into the roof. and it was like a 25-mile-an-hour wind. And it would kill you.
Well, and the difficulty is, since it has to be a certain height above the play equipment, you need to have something to get up that high, which is a scissor truck or a bucket truck or something like that. That you're going to each of the different posts to remove it. So, yeah, it is.
Don't they make them with like perforated and so that the wind blows through?
It's a windscreen, but it's still got a,
It's gonna blow.
Still,
oh, yeah.
So I don't know enough about that from an engineering standpoint, but yeah, I'm happy to look into that concern. Yeah, for sure. All right, is there anything
Shut up.
further, when we could discuss more, but I want to open it up to public?
I don't have anything.
Okay, and just so everyone's aware, with our workshops, we don't ever get to talk to each other at all outside of these meetings. So workshops are normally just for commissioners to discuss ideas and hash it out as quickly as we can. We usually only have an hour before the meeting. Typically, we don't open up to the public, but because of this, we want public input on what we are doing to our parks, to your parks. And so for that reason, I'm going to open public comment here tonight, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And I know that you have been raising your hand like crazy in the back, so we'll take you first. Heidi? All right, come on up. You have 3 minutes, and just state your name and address for the record. You know the drill.
Hi there, I'm Heidi Heller, 460 Ridgewood Avenue. I'd like to say thank you very much to Steve and Mr. Forte for doing the Brazilian pepper activity of cleaning them up in the park. What has not been mentioned about the bathrooms, how about moving the wash stations, just move them outside on either end, open the male side, the female side, make it a community bathroom, each one 2 block, and make a community bathroom, then you have the 2 private women's, 2 private men's. So some options that might, bathrooms outside, I mean the wash stations outside might help a lot. Thirdly, irrigation, the $240,000, however, for the St. Augustine grass, how about, it's been raining forever lately and the grass is really green and nice looking. How about no resodding, just putting in some good irrigation? Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Did you want to be next? Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Alice Gibson, 231 Riverside Drive in the Marina Grand. I want to say bathroom issues, we have it in the Marina Grand. Vandalism. Amtrak, rode Amtrak to Philadelphia. The bathrooms, they close them down and lock them at some point because people are vandalizing the bathrooms. So it's just not the homeless. It's people who go in there and think nobody's going to come behind them. I just went to the movie theater, the Cobb. 4 bathrooms were totally clogged. So this isn't, I know we have a lot of homeless. Now at Riverside Park we have a neighborhood watch something. I'm not sure what that is with the police. We've set up a neighborhood watch. What is it?
At the Marina Grand, you said?
No, sir, at Riverside Park,
Oh, at
which is
Riverside.
Holly Hills.
Okay. Yeah.
It's called the neighborhood watch. It's with the police.
Not to us.
Well,
The neighborhood watch through the police meets at Sika Hall, but you might have a group that meets at Riverside, is what you're saying?
no, we set it up with the police.
Oh, then through the police, it's at Sika Hall. There's a neighborhood watch.
Maybe I misunderstood.
There's a sign on the
Okay, well,
restrooms that said.
I heard police, so I thought it was him.
He's the police chief, yes.
Okay, well.
sorry,
could we
what's
do
your
a
question?
Could we do some type of a neighborhood watch type thing for Sunrise Park?
Oh,
In
you're
my
asking
opinion,
for it.
Sunrise Park is the most beautiful park anybody could have around here. I was walking around yesterday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a group of people under the gazebo area, all of them fishing, 3 little dogs in there. Everybody had their dog. They were worried that I was going to take pictures of them. I didn't. But I did take 100 pictures of everything else. The bathrooms were clean. There were 3 open. The homeless man opened them up for me and checked. And I says, y'all keep messing them up, you're not going to get them anymore. And he's like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, oh. So, for that said, I also took pictures of, you have some sort of a walkway on the very left side, which would be the north side, And there is a seating area there that is falling. It is a liability. It needs to be fixed immediately. I thought maybe this meeting was about you all getting rid of that, to be truthful.
The whole walkway?
That north side
Yeah.
walkway that's,
Vice Mayor's brought that up before.
but I took pictures and it's all on my site. You can look at them and see just a simple little repair of that little ledge spot for somebody to sit on. Probably nobody even sits on it, but the thing that she said was great about opening up and let them, they are people, they are humans. I get it. I don't want to clean nasty humans, but nasty humans isn't just a monetary thing nowadays.
Thank you very much, Alice. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this? Yes, Mr. Legary.
Good evening. Jim Legary, 342 Burley. I would like to suggest that perhaps you could put some of those magnetic things with codes so that when people rent the pavilions, they can have some facilities to use. I would also like to say that we rented the major pavilion there at Sunrise for my birthday. It was a bit of a disaster as far as the bathrooms are concerned. It was really horrible. I think there was one male, one female, and the male toilet was stopped up, very attractive. The other thing was, my people ran some stuff out and plugged it into the electric, which was non-existent. I would think that would, somehow or other, that should have been mentioned prior to my people running through the rain and so forth, that it wasn't hooked up. But I agree with the lady. This is absolutely gorgeous. And I was a little bit embarrassed as we had about 80 people there with no facilities,
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Legary. Yes.
Jim? I agree with you. I talked to Mr. Forte, is that whatever solution we come up with, is that if you rented the pavilion and we have those locks, you're going to get a one-time code for your people to use that toilet. 1, 2, 3, 4 only works for the next 8 hours. And then we could program it. So so no homeless people can go in that bathroom, just the people that rented that pavilion. That's my concern.
It's
a good idea.
One of the most gorgeous places
Right.
on the planet.
Right. And if you rent it and you have someone's going to have to go potty if there's 80 old people,
What about,
Thanks, John.
Just saying.
what about the other people?
I'm right there with you, Jim.
All right, the floor is yours.
David Knopf, 460 Ridgewood. I just wanted to reiterate what Heidi was saying. Every one of those rooms they're like individual bathrooms, and that's where the problem lies. They're going into this little room and they're doing all this damage and everything. If you opened up one side men's room, one side ladies' room, and you had the metal doors that open up, and people could go into several different stalls at one time, and you put the wash stations on the outside, you'd eliminate people sleeping in there, you'd eliminate people taking baths in there. They probably wouldn't get away with doing as much damage. That's my idea.
It's kind of
Very
like
valid.
it's kind of like the Buc-ee's model. Have you been to Buc-ee's?
Yeah.
So you go into a big room, you wash your hands and you use a urinal, but in the women's room, I assume it's the same way. But if there's a toilet, it's only as big as the toilet. There's just a little room and you close the door and you have your private space. But more eyes would keep it clean. So if there were more people in there, no one's going to be sleeping there because I'm going to walk in and go, hey, wake up, get out of here.
Yeah.
They're not going to, they might trash that little 4x4 room,
Right.
but they're not going to trash the whole place.
Is there anyone else that wants to add any of their thoughts on this discussion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment, and thank you for that. It's a new idea that I didn't think of with the bathrooms, and I think it's very valid to consider. We are 3 minutes away from the City Commission meeting starting, so what I will say is I will talk, Joe, with you later on the possibility of changing the bathrooms maybe into one. I don't know if that's possible with the current building, if you want to very quickly comment on
Tear
that.
down what's there, and,
We'd have to tear it down, we wouldn't be able to.
yeah, those are individual block walls. You're talking about
Okay.
remove and replace.
Well, you know,
I didn't
What-
need it.
so is there anything further you want to discuss before we break here?
No, I got my direction for this.
Okay, so we got our direction on this. Is there anything further from the city commission you want to bring up in the work session? All right, so we are 3 minutes away from the city commission meeting. This workshop is now adjourned.